Welcome back to the Pathfinders podcast. I'm your host, Pete Schramm, founder and CEO of Latitude. And today we're going to talk about a career map and a personal board of advisors. And we have a very special guest today who has a very big message. So you don't want to leave after just being here for 15 seconds. You probably want to stay for the majority of the show. Who knows? Maybe there's some giveaways at the end if you take some actions, but get excited. We're going to learn about this transition from Fortune 500 success, right? From the military into the entrepreneurial world, but constantly changing lives along the way. You know how we start this off with the favorite quote? If I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. By Abraham Lincoln. No, Abraham Lincoln's not the person that we're having on the show today. It is Jeff Hancher. He's the president and founder of Jeff Hancher Enterprises. Great team around him. This is a business consulting firm specializing in sales and leadership consulting, executive coaching, customized trainings, and keynote speaking. Definitely check him out if you're looking for a speaker. Prior to starting his own company, he was about 2.5 decades with a Fortune 500 company, Cintas Corporation. He started his job journey as a truck driver, promoted 10 times in that 24-year journey within the company. Throughout his tenure at Cintas, he earned numerous awards for sales and leadership performance. He worked in the corporate realm, discovered his passion of public speaking. We'll have to see if he tells us a little story today, if he was told to get up on the stage or if he volunteered, or how that really grew from the start. He was coaching different leaders, training different leaders, really helping them reach their max potential. As an inventive and assertive leader, he's constantly looking for ways to create sustainable growth for the organizations he worked with. I learned a little bit more from Jeff every time that we talk, and it's going to be a great show today. So he worked at Cintas, but he's also a veteran of the U.S. Army. That gets into a piece of his fun fact, but I'm not going to spoil the second part of it. He's the host of the award-winning leadership podcast, the Champion Forum Podcast. Go check it out. Probably already have, but go have another listen. His favorite titles are that of husband to his wife, Janelle, and dad to his children, Jake and Jacqueline. Without further ado, the other fun fact about Jeff is he loves some za. Full translation there, pizza. He once built an entire family vacation around pizza spots in the Northeast. Hailing from the Pittsburgh area, pizza wherever it takes you. Jeff, what's going on today?
Pete, what an intro. I never thought that I would be introduced as the pizza connoisseur. I'm not a one bite pizza connoisseur kind of guy like that.
Okay.
But I will tell you, any town I travel to, I'm looking for the best spots. So yeah, here I am. A lot of things going on, but I will break for pizza.
Okay. Well, but I mean, we're just going to get into this right from the beginning. A lot of folks know you in the Western Pennsylvania area. Just hit us with your top 2-3 pizza places. We might get a really big uptake in viewers and listeners and subscribers at this point, or they might drop off. So don't hold back. Choose your answer wisely.
Pittsburgh area, Pete?
Yeah, Pittsburgh area is the starting point. We'll sprinkle in some more of the other options later on.
In no specific order.
Okay.
If I had to go for pizza tonight, I would go to one of two places. I would go to Badano's on the north side, and I would get the deep dish Sicilian with extra cheese.
Wow. Okay.
Or I would go to Vincent's of Baum Boulevard, and I would get their traditional pepperoni. Now, if you're a hard crust, stiff undercarriage pizza kind of person, Vincent's is not going to be for you. If that's you, you want to go to Murraysville and get New York pizza by the slice.
Is it still open?
It is still open, yes.
Okay. Somebody was fake news then.
Drive, yeah.
Okay, well, there you have it, folks. All right, podcast. Everything that you need. Jeff, it was interesting how we got connected, right? There's about 17 people that said, hey, Pete, you got to go talk to this Jeff guy. hey, you know Jeff Hancher? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know everything about the guy now, and I haven't even talked to him. So it was a pleasure to get to meet you, to have a couple of conversations leading up to this. We got a lot to cover, but Jeff, the first thing that we like to ask on here is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be a big rig truck driver.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do. That's what my grandfather did. He used to take me on short trips with him, and I would sit on what he called the dog box so that I could see outside that front window. And I loved the roar of that engine, and I just wanted to be like Pap. And one day I just wanted to be drive the big rigs. And I just remember for years as a little kid thinking that's what I wanted to do. The reality is I didn't have much direction. I had two parents that never worked a day in my life. They were really sick. So I didn't really have this career path to follow or any insight into how to chase a career. I just gravitated towards things that I thought was cool. But driving the big rig seemed pretty cool to me.
Well, I mean, you grew up in the booming metropolis that you can touch on, so there's probably a lot. I mean, where I grew up, you're going to go work at the hospital, the steel mill, maybe on the farm, or you're going to get pretty involved in drugs, right? Times have changed for the better, which is absolutely awesome. But there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities, in those stages. What I guess that's 30 years ago now. But talk to us a little bit about small town. We're almost in like Rust Belt. Could you, nearing the West Virginia border. We're not going to ask about sports team affiliations here. We wouldn't do that to you, Jeff. But yeah, talk to us a little bit about what that's like growing up in a rural area.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons, I think. I grew up in Claysville. People say they brag they came from only a one light town. That was one more than we had. Um, Great place to grow up as a kid because you could run around and, the whole community kind of looked after you. But it didn't always lend itself to life outside of the small town. There wasn't a lot of visionary leadership happening. And look, that's not a bad way to live. Life in a small town is great. But, a lot of the people there, they would graduate from high school and they would either go to the military or they would try to get plugged into one of the local coal mines that was owned by Consol Mining. It's coal country out there. And growing up the way that I did, I didn't even have that direction of, even going to get a blue collar job. Now, I worked a lot as a kid and started my first business when I was 16 and always hustled out of necessity. But there wasn't a whole lot of direction in regards to steps to take after high school, which is how I ended up in the military.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you go in, or was there a friend over there, or the signing bonus was pretty solid one day, or you said, hey, you saw one of those commercials or talked to somebody? What led you to that piece? Because I think it could be, a great recalibration for folks. We have had a couple of others that came on the podcast, and some people look at going into the military early on as a negative connotation. Gosh, that's some of the best darn leadership training that you can get out. I'd say almost half of our guests, have been in the military in some capacity. But talk to us about that decision-making process for you.
I don't say this lightly, Pete. It saved my life, literally.
Yeah, yeah.
With this misdirection and, parents that suffered from sicknesses and substance abuse, this led to a very dysfunctional teenage season. And brushes with the law, my own battles with alcohol. When I graduated high school, I didn't know what to do, but I knew that going to the military was a path of least resistance, meaning it didn't cost me anything to do it. But I didn't really know what I was getting into. The whole motivation was I didn't want to be a loser, and I knew I wanted more, but I didn't even know what it looked like. I'd love to tell you that I was running to Uncle Sam and patriotism, but the reality was I was running from chaos and dysfunction. And getting to the military, man, it shaped me up quick. It gave me the structure that I needed to create a foundation to build upon. And one of the best decisions I ever made in my life.
So one of the things that we talk about in here is a career map.
Yeah.
And, your response may be shorter than others. to this one, but at what point did you start to plan out? All right, I'm in the military. I want to, get out, and I'm going to be this, big time, speaker, and I'm going to be this Fortune 500 executive, and I'm going to have these 10 different roles in 24 years. At what point did you kind of put pencil to paper along the way?
I waited too long. I didn't have a career map. I accidentally found Cintas. I was supposed to be going to college on the GI Bill. I get the call that I had gotten from my dad so many times, which is they're sending mom home in hospice. This time specifically, he was having a leg amputation. And so I put college on the back burner, went home and got the nurses set up. And I was just looking for a seasonal job to help them pay the bills. The
Yeah.
problem was I had no skill. So I became a truck driver at Cintas because it's hard work, which is what I was used to. I fell in love with the culture and the company and the growth and the training and the development. And so I stuck around and I started getting promotions. Here was my career map, Pete. Work hard and get great results. That was the career map. Now, the good news is if you work hard and get great results, you can stand out, but that is going to fade fast as you grow your career, because at some point you get to a place, everybody's working hard and everybody has results, and what got you here won't get you there. And I remember blowing my first big interview of my career. I had gotten promoted every time up until that point. I blew the interview, and the senior leader handed me a book called Career Warfare by David D'Alessandro.
Okay.
And the book opened my eyes. The book name says it all, Career Warfare. It opened my eyes that there's actually a strategy to going to the next level. And part of that was mentoring. Now, I had some people that made deposits in my life, but it was never anything quote unquote formal. And I will tell you, taking the principles of that book,
Yeah.
getting around mentors that had been where I was trying to go, changed the career map trajectory. So nobody ever really sat down with me and said, hey, we're going to map out your career. My gosh, if I would have had that, I'd think about how many years I might have saved.
Well, it's because they didn't,
Hard.
go into a time machine, grab the Pathfinder's book. There's a simple explanation for all of this, Jeff, and we'll work to help set people straight going forward. But you brought up an interesting point there of the who, right? So we always talk about, well, you got the where and the what, right? Here's where I can go and grow professionally, and here's what we're going to discuss along the way. But the who. So those first couple of guides, maybe talk, starting at the military phase of your life, right? Who were those first couple of guides that were kind of pointing you in the right direction? What'd you discuss, and how'd you find them?
Yeah. I accidentally found them in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my first sergeant Little was one of those people. I had a bunk buddy called, a military buddy that was also from Pittsburgh that I ran into, Steve Festa. He was
Yeah.
quite a few years older than me. I ran into him at Fort Jackson. He was a mentor. One of my drill sergeants, Drill Sergeant Jackson, they're not really there to be guides and mentors. They're there to make your life really hard.
Yeah.
But this guy kind of caught wind of my story and really supported me and helped me along the way. And I accidentally found mentors in the military, and then I accidentally found some in my personal life and at Cintas. But what really changed the game was when I started to learn the art of going after and seeking mentors.
Yeah, and I think that's a big piece, right? A lot of us think that, hey, it's going to happen to us, right? We're going to be here. And I think even more so with, some with millennials, more so with Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, right? They're going to find me, right? I deserve this. And not all of them, but I think it's this big proactive piece that, hey, last time I checked, folks that reach out to me, they're like, hey, will you spend some time with me? Worst thing I say is not yet. Right.
Yeah.
You might say, hey, I'm working on this big project right now. Catch me in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Right.
Yes.
Maybe it extends to a year, but I don't think you're going to say no. And I think
Right.
that's the piece, is if you say, hey, and if you can couple that with a, hey, so-and-so told me to come over and talk with you, then, hey, maybe that 6 months lead time of our first conversation goes down to 3 or 4 months. But
Absolutely.
it's something that people love to do. And I think if you set the expectation of it being semi-formal, right? Not informal, not overly formal, but semi-formal, and kind of guiding in nature can be really helpful. Keep going on that one of where you accidentally found more of these guides, Jeff.
Yeah, I think some of those guys admired my work ethic
Yep.
and my extra mile kind of attitude, which by the
Yep.
way, like, if you want to stand out a little bit, work harder than everybody else. Nobody's doing that in today's world. So I think people naturally gravitated towards me because of those things. But after reading this book, and one of those mentors that I accidentally found, his name was Dan Billy, and he was this superstar sales leader. I wanted to transition from being a truck driver to sales. And I just remember going out to coffee with Dan from time and time, and he would help me prep for interviews, and he would role play, how to prospect on the phone with me. I mean, this was a guy that, mentored me beyond the boardroom, if you will.
Yeah.
And he taught me the difference between a suit coat and a sport coat. Those kind of mentors. Keep in mind, I grew up in poverty. One of my chores was to cut small tin squares out of coffee cans, pop rivet them to the floor of our car. Like, I didn't know what a sport coat was. I knew what a suit was, but mentors, they can teach you things that you don't even know what you don't know. I didn't know that your belt and shoes were supposed to match. I didn't know any of this. This is career warfare. And a guy like Dan Billy that was like teaching me along the way without making me feel like a moron. And by the way, giving me great business advice too. It changed the game for me. That was my first quote unquote real mentor. I had them growing up. People came in and out of my life. But Dan Billy, as I look back, he was that guy. He's a CEO of a pretty large company now. He also grew, which is a thing to think about, is your mentor isn't your buddy always, and it's not your peer and somebody that you want to hang out with and rub elbows. It's somebody that has been in your future. They can give you something that you don't have. These are the secrets to success, quote unquote.
So we'll get into some of those other board seats in a second. You alluded to them. I learned the trick, and I'm no fashionista, but hey, the color of your shoes, the color of your belt, they ought to match, and sometimes you have some flexibility if you're on the golf course. Jeff, can you set us straight with the sport coat and the suit jacket? What's the difference? I don't know that I know the difference.
Right. Well, nobody really does know, because if I threw on a suit coat without the pants, you would think it was a sport coat, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I said to Dan Billy. And he explained to me that the difference is a sport coat is used for less formal events. And how I knew this was I won my first President's Club in sales.
Yeah.
And I show him the itinerary and what we need. Now, I had a suit at this point, but he's like, no, you can't wear a suit. It's a sport coat event. And I'm like, tell me more. Now, to give you how clueless I was, when I showed up at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, some guy ran up to our car and said, I'm your porter. And I said, no hablo inglés. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing. I didn't belong there. So I don't know if there's definitely, we'll have to get my friend David Allen to officially answer that question. We might have to message him. But what I will tell you is, you don't wear the same pants with the sport coat. They're different. I do know that. And that's what Dan taught me, was no tie, a little less formal. And now I'm learning what business casual is, Pete. I mean, we're going to another level, right?
Well, hey, there's this new thing where you can slap on a pair of sneakers with your suit, no tie, mismatched pants.
I'm in it right now.
There we go. There we go. So hey, let's keep talking through this. What an interesting piece a lot of folks like to hear about, listen on, is that transition from your first job to your second job, right?
Yep.
Whenever you say, hey, Mr. Mrs. Manager, I'm leaving your team, right? It can be tough. And especially, that's where you've really, they took a shot on you,
Yeah.
That's where you got your training. I mean, you got your training wheels with Uncle Sam, right? Let's be honest. But in the professional world, that's a big step. So talk to us a little bit about that piece of, hey, what went through your mind? Were you pulled away? Were you looking for something? Because that's a tough one. A lot to think about.
I would call it gut wrenching.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you briefly, so gut wrenching and full of fear that I'm on a flight from Atlanta to Pittsburgh while I'm still in my corporate job. I feel nauseous. I think I'm going to throw up. We're not even at cruising altitude. I end up passing out and having a seizure in the aisle. They're thinking about landing the plane for a medical emergency. I'm begging them not to. I feel fine. I get to the hospital, all stressed, vagus nerves just going haywire. Stressful? Yes. I now in this case, I wasn't running from something. I was running to something. I loved Cintas. I bled the culture. I thought for sure I was going to retire there in my early to mid 50s. I had promotion opportunity at knocking at my door. I had a deep unvested stock portfolio. But here's what happened, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
My pastor and I are having lunch January of 2019, and he says, you really need to start a podcast on leadership.
Yeah.
And I said, tell me more about what this is podcast. And he's telling me all of this. And I'm like, I don't really know. I wouldn't have time to do that, my corporate job. And he said, we're going to do everything. All you got to do is show up and talk. I believe this is what you're supposed to do. So I'm like, it's too easy. I have to do it. I start the podcast. Little did I know, we'd start winning awards. People are listening. People start asking for coaching, for training. I start doing it as a side hustle. Fulfillment overwhelms me. That's what thrust us into this. But I was scared to death. Cintas, for all intents and purposes, was all that I knew. And how I made my decision was this. If I'm looking down on my funeral, or I'm told I only have days to live, am I going to look back and regret not giving this a shot and serving people? The heart behind my company is to give people what others have given to me. There are people out there that are misguided and don't have a lot of direction. And I get to spend every single day of my life paying that forward. So far, so good. We're loving the journey. We haven't arrived, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Talk to us about the big news that's coming soon.
Big news. Firm feedback in a fragile world. We're launching this book. Pre-launch is coming soon, but launching the book June 17th of 2025. Firmfeedbackbook.com to learn more about that. But that is a passion project. You know, with all of the succession planning meetings I was in throughout the 10, 15 years of doing succession planning at Cintas, I boiled it down to two things why people never got promoted in leadership. One of those was emotional intelligence, and number two was the lack of challenging leadership. We're in a world that's fragile, it's fractured. The Great Resignation, go down the list. Leaders aren't really taught well how to give hard feedback, but also be very endearing. I call it the velvet covered brick. Soft on people, hard on standards. And in this book, I lay out a framework, a 3-pillar framework to help even the most passive, the most introverted, whatever your personality is, leader, not just be a boss that people report to, but become a leader that people don't want to let down, which is what the leaders, if we're ranking our top 3, they were hard on us, but they cared deeply. This framework is to help leaders do the same.
100%. So who should check this book out? Am I a leader of a couple of people, mid-level management? Am I a C-suite executive? Talk to me here.
Yes to all of it. And why I say that is because there's data behind my yes.
Yeah.
This book came on the heels of a 1-day performance management workshop that I created during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to build out a framework that solved one of what I believe one of the biggest leadership problems in the world. And so I launched this workshop to the world. Knock on wood, Pete, it has sold out every time we've made it public. We've had the C-suite. We've had the person that says, someday I'd like to be a leader. Yep. We've had the scope of those two different things. If you're a leader with a lot of tenure, the goal isn't to be knowledgeable, it's to be effective. This might be a tool that's not in your tool belt, and most likely it's not. If you're not a leader yet and you aspire to be one, this is going to give you a significant competitive advantage as you're looking to impact people. And then you have the leader that's everywhere in between. There's leaders listening right now that are thinking, this leadership thing sucks. I think I'm going to go back to doing my individual thing. Hey, before you do that, can I ask you, take a look at the book. We need more great leaders, because as the leaders go, so goes the organizations. And this is a huge fractured piece in the business world today.
And I think the lack of bodies, right, over the next 5 years.
That's right.
I think it's over the next 5 years, we're going to have, I think it's between 7 million and 10 million fewer people to fill these roles.
That's
So,
right.
hey, whether we like it or not, we're going to have to promote people into these positions. So, hey, you might say, I'm not ready for it. Well, tough stuff. We need somebody to do it. If not you, then who? And so it's a great opportunity for folks. And I think it is just that piece of invest in yourself a little bit. And I'd push back a little bit on you, Jeff, there and say, hey, even if you're not a leader with a title yet, you can still check out Jeff's book, right?
Absolutely.
Firm Feedback in a Fragile World, so that you're able to understand what good looks like. Because we've also all been there where we have a leader where we're like, man, this doesn't really feel right. And I don't know if this is what good is or not, especially in those, early 1 to 5 years of your working days, right? And so for you to be able to, kind of guide the conversations and get some of those perspectives back to good. So I think if you're, pre-leadership, early leadership, mid-leadership, late leadership, or post-leadership is where I'd put that in there as a way to have a look at it. You gonna be doing a book tour or anything like that, traveling around the country?
We're going to be doing some travel.
Wherever there's pizza shops, yeah, you'll be there.
and I will find every pizza shop along the way. Make no mistake about it. I'd be really interested in use of that. I mean, capitalism is a killer.
Uh, that'd be really cool from a marketing perspective. Hey, we did a book signing, and here's where we got a slice.
I'll get a book signing at the pizza shop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that could work out really well. Move over. Was it Barstool in Portnoy?
Absolutely. And I would love the listener to message me on LinkedIn the pizza shop that I haven't been to that I should be. Like, yeah, I love those kind of recommendations.
Okay, got it. I'm right there with you. Please do a group message so that we can both be there for it. Okay, so as we start to wrap up here, I'm going to ask 2 more questions. The first one is, whenever you found those guides along the way, I think you said Dan Billy was one of them. What did you guys discuss? Right? What did you bring to the table? A lot of statistics we see out there is that the mentee, the protege, the one who's supposed to be driving it, is really letting things fall short, and they're like, I don't really know what to do. So what are some of the things that you'd come prepared to discuss and review and cover in each of those conversations? And maybe if there's other, guides that you interacted with, what'd you bring to the table in each of those chats?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic question. And I'm going to answer it, but I'm going to start by saying this. As a protege, you have to find ways to serve your mentor. The best mentors don't have time for you. They don't. And they're getting asked to mentor people all the time. Find ways to serve your mentor. I remember, Dan used to travel a lot, and I would connect with his wife, while he was traveling, and I would say, hey, how can I help? What can I do? Can I cut the grass? What can I just wanted to serve Dan and his family any way that I could. Find ways to serve your mentor, like their content, share their content, comment, post on their content. This is going to have them start swimming towards you. As far as the questions, one of the questions that you should ask early in your mentoring is this. Hey, Pete, who do you know that I don't know that you think I should meet? What we're doing with this question is we're starting to build a solid network of people. They might not all be mentors, but we're building a solid network. That's how you and I met, Pete, right? And I'm grateful for that. But I also think that we have to come ready to that meeting asking the 50,000-foot questions like, hey, if you were in my career placement right now, what are some things that you would do differently if you could go back and do it differently? We want to probe into their journey. What we don't want is to play career trivia. We want to get, real-time footage of their journey and what didn't work. And here's why those type of questions are valuable. Wisdom comes one of 2 ways. It comes from failing yourself, or it comes from getting around people that have failed a lot. I would just rather get around people that have failed a lot. When you're asking these questions, that's what you're drawing out from them, is what worked and what didn't work. At the end of every mentoring session, you should recap with your mentor,
Yep.
take the action items, and ask them this question: is there anything I should have asked you today that I didn't? As you start knocking off the action items, you update that mentor and thank them for the advice and reestablish another meeting based off of everybody's availability. These are a snippet of what I believe are great mentor protege best practices.
Love it. Covered today. So cool update for the listeners and for you as well, Jeff, is we actually have conversations 1 through 10. I ask you, you ask me for each of the 10 board seats inside of Latitude. So big updates on that front, and it learns from you over time. So it's a little bit of a smart recommendation engine. It is slick, let me tell you. So those are some of the pieces that you'll see those questions in there, along with a couple of others. But I also want to touch on the piece that you brought up a couple of times of this idea of your personal board of advisors, right? You talked about a buddy, a friend, so most of the conversation today was around functional mentor, and that is the person who is, successful. You talked about somebody that might have been an accountability partner for you, somebody that's really checking in on you for you. And that might be the spouse of one of your mentors, right? It might be somebody from a mastermind group. We're going to have to give that a quick shout out as well. But then you also do have that buddy, the ally, the cross-functional mentor, somebody that's from a different line of work and background. So your supervisor, somebody that's on your personal board. And it's this idea of how do we continue to structure, right, these people that are around us and guiding us. And you might say, hey, Pete, I'm only going to have, 6 or 7 of these to start. I don't know that I have a full 8 people in my support system. That's all right. But as you continue to allude to these different guides and how we diversify those different, pieces along the way, man, it makes it a lot more clear.
No doubt about it. Invaluable to have that around you. We all have blind spots. I don't care how much success you've had. We all have a blind spot, and having people around you proves to yourself and to the world that you don't have an ego and you're still willing to learn. Let's never get to a place that not only are we not getting feedback, but we're not seeking feedback. And I have some of the most amazing, personal board members that I think run planet Earth. And I had to put a lot of work in to get him in those seats. And I will tell you, as I think about the people around that table, Pete, I'd say at least half of them came by way of me sending them a LinkedIn video message.
Yeah.
A LinkedIn video message. Like, how many of those do you get a year that's customized to you and it's a video? The answer top survey says is 0. I get texts, I get the DMs, but I'm not getting a video that's relevant and compelling. That's how I got a lot of those people around that table.
So Jeff GPT coming to you soon. Wait, get ready for it. The video generator.
Jeff, we got waiting for you right now, Pete.
we got to wrap up here. Well, actually, yeah, go ahead. So what's going to go into that video? Short, sweet. How long is it? What do you cover? Say you're reaching out to me, right? CEO of Pete Schramm. Actually, my buddies and I, we used to joke about Schramm Corp. Yeah, there you go. CEO of Schramm Corp.
Yes.
What are you gonna record? What's it gonna sound like?
Yeah, so one of those was Tim Elmore. Tim Elmore's a guy that worked for John Maxwell for 15 years, is great friends with John Maxwell, has written multiple New York Times bestsellers, is having a thriving business, a guy that would never give me the time of day. And so I just start researching this guy and trying to figure out what I know, current events, pre-call planning. And one day I felt like I had enough to make a valuable video. And I just got this phone and I pulled it up and I hit record and I said, Tim Elmore, Jeff Hancher, hey, listen, I'm sending you this 59-second message because I'm wondering if you can help me the same way that John Maxwell has helped you. I bet there's people that have come into your life along the way very unexpectedly that transformed who you've become. I'm wondering if I can capture 10 minutes of your time. I have 3 questions that I've been waiting months to ask you. I also would like to promote your book, A New Kind of Diversity, on my podcast, as I think it's an answer to the leadership world today. Could you give me 10 minutes of your time? And even if it's only one of the questions, it would mean the world to me. Maybe just like John Maxwell has supported you, I wonder if you could do that for me in as little as 10 minutes. I certainly hope to hear from you. 59 seconds.
59, 60. There we go.
That was it. And I always keep them under a minute.
Mhm.
It's quick. It's easy. Now, if you want to get really creative, you grab, a 1x1 dry erase board and you write on there, "Hey, Tim." So that's the opening frame that's frozen. "Hey,
Yep.
Tim," I'm smiling. And as soon as the video starts, I put it down and I go into it. How many of those, listener, have you gotten in the last 12 months? Top answer, 0. If you got one, would you at least listen to it? Your open rate is like 100%. You might actually get that meeting. Tim Elmore is the reason that I wrote this book. Tim Elmore is how I met Mark Coles, John Maxwell's CEO, and why this book is being published under the covering of Maxwell Publishing. It's because of that one video.
Wow. Nice work. Hey, last question before we get into the recap. Couple of notes I have over here. You work with a lot of organizations, you've seen a lot of leaders, you've seen a lot of what works and what doesn't work, and a whole bunch of what to avoid, but you've learned what great looks like. So whenever we think about this idea of each employee having a career map, right? Looking at where they can go in the future, thinking about their skills, achievements, accomplishments, education, and some of the fun stuff along the way. And coupling that career map with the personal board, right? Multiple mentors. Where do you see the value of this, Jeff, inside organizations now?
I think it's a big miss, quite frankly, because I'm not gonna name names, but even in the Fortune 500 space, I will tell you, if you're a larger company, you've at least checked the box and said we see value in it, and you've created this quote unquote turnkey solution, and you're ramrodding everybody into systems.
Yep.
I mean, look, I'd rather have it than not. But what I would say is, and knowing what I do know about your framework, Pete, we have to make this easy on people. This can't be a top-down thing where we just shove out, print this off, fill it out, send it back by this date to be compliant with your mentoring program. That's just not going to work. There's a difference between engagement and compliance. Leaders are busy. They have more to do than they have time. Mentoring, career mapping, it shouldn't be something they have to do. It should be something that they get to do. The way that organizations can do this well is make it easier to use. That's why I love your programs, Pete, because they're turnkey. Like, if you're a business leader listening, let the people that are great at this do their job. Like, I'm not changing the oil in my driveway. I'm going to the quick loop. Like, this is a big miss where we try to pull these things in-house and it becomes a check in the box. And it's not effective. It's compliance driven. And show of hands, everybody likes to be told what to do. Nobody. But this is a valuable tool. So we just have to find that sweet spot so that our employees, our frontline leaders are engaged in the process. That would be my highest recommendation.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. Jeff, I'm going to go through the quick recap here. Thank you for joining us. Always knowing where to get that best deep dish with extra cheese or pep. Dreams of the dog box and the big rig with pap is where you started, right? Tough times in those tender years. The city of Claysville got you going. Not a whole lot there, and it wasn't easy, but you worked hard. Your post-secondary education was with Uncle Sam, running from the chaos and to leadership and growth and opportunity. You shared some insights and stories about how you kept family first and took care of them. It's remarkable what you did. Something that really stuck out for me was work hard and get results. Those little things called work ethic and going the extra mile are contagious, and they are magnets to other great people. You shared the book with us, Career Warfare, that I have to go check out, and you accidentally extended your seasonal job to 24 years. I don't know how many people can say they did that. You found guides in a similar accidental fashion, right? Being true to yourself. I love the piece you shared at the end of cramming career development into compliance, create chaos and confusion. Dan Billy and a drill sergeant Jackson were teaching you along the way, and you gave shout outs to Dan so many times, right? How can these great mentors and advisors guide us without making us feel like a moron? Maybe there's some tough love and some smart joking in there, but big shout out to Dan for all that he did. January 29, you and your pastor have a chat, and the leadership podcast comes to life. This side hustle began to fill your heart more than you imagined. You said, "Hey, this could become my main gig." You shared about those gut-wrenching moments, right? Seizure, plane ride, almost went down. And it was this piece of you're fully committed. Your love of where you were working was even maybe a little deeper than you could have realized. But you said, "Hey, my mission here is paying it forward." And that's something that we continue to see throughout your work. So keep it up, Jeff. One of the pieces that you shared is that blind spots remain even with the brightest spotlights and the hottest hypos. So we can't do this thing alone. Stay tuned for June 2025, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World. Best-selling book coming very soon. Soft on people, hard on standards. I love it, and I'm excited for the other tidbits to come from that. From knowledge to effectiveness as leaders is one of the other pieces that we're going to learn in that book. And I love the other piece of leaving career trivia in the dust. We'll see some more tidbits in the book as well. Mentors are busy as all get out, so find ways to serve your mentor and those around them. Couple of questions that you like to add are, who do you know that I don't know that you think I should know? That's almost poetic, Jeff. So well done there. I don't know if you're going. What would you do differently if you were in my shoes? And then recap. And is there anything else that we should have covered today? And I want to round this up with one of the most profound actions that people can, could, should, ought to take today is that quick, less than a minute LinkedIn video. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you for guiding us. Good luck. Go get his book. Go get Pathfinders. Check these out. Thank you for joining us today, Jeff Hancher.